Hello, my name is Marleena Barber and I am with VSA Orange County, and today I'm going to show you how to make kindness rocks. Now, you're probably wondering, what are kindness rocks? Well, they are rocks that we can paint fun designs on and write uplifting words of encouragement to brighten someone's day. Kindness rocks could be used as a gift. You could also hide them around your neighborhood for people to find as a surprise. You could also start a kindness rock garden, maybe at your school. Maybe your classroom could start a kindness rock garden where you would bring in rocks that you've painted and add them to a little collection. And you can take one that really speaks to you, maybe that you particularly like the message, and then you would bring one in to contribute to give back. Before we get started, there are a few things that you will need. First, I'd recommend covering your craft surface with either a disposable tablecloth or newspaper or something that would keep paint and glue off of your surface. I would also recommend wearing a smock or an apron so that we can protect our clothes from getting any paint on them as well. Next, we will need an assortment of paint. I'm going to recommend acrylic paint, but you can also use tempera paint or any other paint that's thick enough to cover the surface of a rock. You can also use puff paint, which would give your rock some neat texture to it, and also would be helpful with some of these puff paint bottles. They have a really fine tip, so you can do some more detail. And then you'll also need, for painting, you'll need some different sizes of brushes. Maybe a fine tip brush, a little bit wider brush to cover your rock with paint for your background or any larger designs you're going to do. I'm also going to recommend having some permanent markers or some Sharpies, and I have some fine tip Sharpies here. And the reason why I recommend these is because sometimes it's difficult to paint words, and if we want to write encouraging words on our rocks of kindness, it might be easier to use a permanent marker for that. And this is optional, but I really do recommend finding a sealant to seal your design and your paint on your rock after it's done. I have Mod Podge here, which you can brush on, and it's a clear coat. You could also use a clear spray paint coat as well, but I like Mod Podge because it's very easy to use the brush and paint it on, and it will dry clear, and it will protect your rock from getting scratched and maybe smudging your design. Oh, I almost forgot. We're going to need rocks. Rocks of different sizes, different shapes, and I recommend finding smooth, flat rocks if possible. And a place that you can find smooth, flat rocks would be at the beach or by a river, any place where there's water where it could tumble the rock and smooth it out. But if you can't find flat, smooth rocks, that's okay. You can still paint rocks that you might find in your backyard or on a hike. I would just recommend trying to find something that's a little bit flat so it's easier for you to write some words on it. The first thing we'll want to do is wash our rocks really well, especially if you got your rocks from your backyard or from the beach. We want to make sure we get all the sand and dirt off of them and dry them really well. Once your rocks are dried, we're then going to pick the colors and come up with a plan of what we're going to do with these rocks. Today, I think that I would like to paint something that has to do with our festival theme, which is be brave, be kind, be you. And we have the little bumblebee as our little mascot for this year. So I think that I'll take my largest rock for that, because be brave, be kind, be you is a lot of words. So I think that I'll choose this rock. Then I think that I want to do a rainbow because I really love rainbows. I think that they're bright and cheery and colorful, and they're symbolic of hope. So I might choose maybe one of these medium rocks, and I might write the word hope underneath the rainbow. I also love watermelon. I love the colors, the pink and the green. And I recently saw a really fun phrase that said, "You're one in a melon" instead of one in a million. And so I think I might put that on the backside of my rock and make it into a watermelon. My last rock, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, but that is the beauty of art, is that we can be spontaneous and create in the moment. It's always great to have a plan, but it's also fun to be spontaneous. So we'll just leave this one and see what we come up with. So we have all of our supplies, we have our rocks, we've come up with somewhat of a plan. I think we're ready to get started. One thing I forgot to mention for the supplies was to also maybe have some paper towels and a glass of water or a bucket of water that you can clean your brushes off between different colors. I think I'm going to start with my largest rock, the Be Brave, Be Kind, Be You one. And I'm going to paint the whole rock yellow. I want my, whoopsie, it's a good thing I had my tablecloth on here because I already got paint on the table. So you're going to paint the whole surface of the rock here, and you might need a couple of coats of paint if you really want it to be all one color and not showing the rock. So you might have to take some time between different coats. So that's one coat, and I'll probably wait for this to dry, and then I'll do another coat of yellow on top just so we can cover up all of the gray of the rock underneath. For my rainbow rock, I think I want a light blue background. So I think what I might do is I might take my blue that I have and mix some white into it to make it a little bit lighter blue. So I'm going to mix that up. Now I'm going to take that, I'm going to cover this rock. And again, I might have to do multiple layers, and we also have to wait for this side to dry before we can do the other side. That covered it really well. I might not have to do a second coat of this one. For my watermelon, I'll probably do pink. This pink for my watermelon is very, very light, so it's not covering it very well. So I'll definitely have to do another coat of that pink. Something you might want to do too is if you're using light colors like I'm using this light pink, you might want to take white and cover it with white paint first as what we would call a primer. Then the other colors will show up really well. Oh yeah, that's going to help us out. So I'll let this dry, and then I will put my pink paint over it. And the pink paint should show up. So for this last rock, remember I said I didn't quite know what I was going to do for this one, but I just came up with an idea to maybe make a little sun on it and write the words "Shine Bright." I think for this background, I will go back to blue, but I'll use a darker blue. I might have too much water still on my brush, so I might need to dab that. And you can make the other side of your rock a different color if you like. In fact, I was thinking for my watermelon rock that I might make one side completely green, like it was the outside of the watermelon, and the other side pink, like the inside of the watermelon with some black seeds on it. Okay, so I'm just finishing covering this one with blue. And now I just need to let my rocks dry a little bit before I turn them over. Okay, now that I have one side dry, I'm going to flip my rocks over and paint the other side. So for my this was going to be the watermelon, but I just had to paint it white first so that I could put the pink on top. But we have to flip it over and do the green. There. That covered it really nicely. I don't think we need to do a second coat of the green. So we'll set that aside to dry. Next we have the rainbow rock, and we did a sky. Does seem like it takes up a lot of time to do just the background because you have to give your rock time to dry, but it really makes these rocks look so nice if they're completely covered in color. All right, this one's nice and covered. We can set this one aside to continue drying. We'll move on to our Shine Bright and go back to that darker blue. All right, I'm going to set this one aside to dry. Now for this yellow rock, I think I might do a different color on the back. I think I might do orange on the back because that was another one of our colors for the festival this year. Now I will paint this on the back here. Now in terms of getting the edges, I'll have to pick up my rock and kind of look around and try to make a nice seam where they meet, where the two colors meet. It does take a lot of patience for them to dry, and one thing that actually helped me to speed up the process was to use a hair dryer. So I put my rocks on a paper plate and I brought them into my bathroom where my hair dryer was, and I just blew the hair dryer over them to help the paint dry a little faster. So I'm going to let these dry again, and then we'll come back and we'll start writing some words. Okay, so now my rocks have had a chance to dry, and I went ahead and did the pink side of my watermelon, which actually turned out really well. I think that it really helped to do that coat of white first. So I have the green and the pink, and I love this already. I'm so excited about this. And then I also did one of those hexagon shapes on the back because that's part of our artwork for the theme this year. I'll probably outline it with a marker or something. But I have that, and then these two rocks are going to be the same on both sides. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start doing my design now that I have my background. So on this rock, the dark blue rock, I'm going to use puff paint because it's got this really nice fine tip. I'll be able to really control the paint coming out, and I'm going to make a little spiraled sun. So that's the center of my sun, and then I'm going to make some little squiggly rays coming out of it. I have a sun completed with little rays, and I'm going to let that dry now so that I can turn it over and write Shine Bright on the back. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. And now I have, how about my watermelon? So I'm going to take my black Sharpie and I'm going to write, "You're one in a melon." One in a melon. So this is tough for me because I do not see very well. And speaking of not being able to see very well, If you are visually impaired, or if you might have trouble using paintbrushes, you can absolutely use your fingers to spread the paint. That's actually what I ended up doing on a couple of them because I found that I had brush strokes showing. And if I just use my finger to spread the paint, it was much smoother. So that is one adaptation that you can do so that you don't have to use the paint brushes if that's a little too difficult for you. Another thing too is instead of having to write on the rocks, you could also use stickers. And the stickers will stay once we use the Mod Podge on them. So we can use Mod Podge over stickers. You could even use napkins and wrap your rocks in napkins and use the Mod Podge to glue to the rock. So there's lots of different options. If you're not comfortable painting with these very fine paint brushes, it is pretty detailed. I'm finding it difficult with my vision impairment to write with this. I have to get really close. So this is what it looks like. It says "You're one in a melon." And I think I'm going to make some little seeds for my watermelon. I'll set that aside because I think that I also want to put some light green streaks on the back to make it look like a real watermelon. Next I have the big one here. One thing I wanted to do is I wanted to outline my honeycomb hexagon. So I'm going to use a dark orange Sharpie and I'm going to outline my honeycomb hexagon because it didn't really come out as sharp as I wanted to, the lines. And now on the back, I'm going to do "Be brave, be kind, be you." And I think I'm just going to stick with the black for this. Now I'm going to work on my rainbow. I think I'm going to start with red. So I have my red and I'm just going to, I have a nice curve on my rock here, so I'm going to just kind of follow this curve to make the arc for my rainbow with my red. Now I can already tell that this red is not covering. I might have to do a couple of different coats of this. I might have to be very patient with this one and give it time to dry before I do the next color. If you're working on multiple rocks, you could set this one aside and then go back to another one. I might come back to my "Be brave, be kind, be you." I do want to put the B, and I also think I want to put the year of the festival on the back. It's 2021. And I might put our VSA logo on here. I'm going to finish up my rainbow with yellow and green and blue and purple. And then I think I'm going to make some little clouds on the sides. And then I think on the back, I'm going to write "Hope." And then I think I will go and finish up the rest of my rocks and I will show you what I've created. Okay, I have finished my rocks and I really love how the rainbow turned out. That one took the longest because I had to keep waiting for each little arc to dry, but I have my rainbow and I wrote "Hope" on the back in like little clouds. I have my "Be brave, be kind, be you" that I made a little butterfly, and the bumblebee. And then on the back, it says the 45th Annual VSA Festival 2021. That's going to be like a little keepsake for me from this festival. And then I love this one too. You're one in a melon. And then on the back, I made it look like a melon, the outside of a real watermelon. And this one, I remember I used the puff paint on this one. This is the sun. And on the back, you know, what I loved that this was so textured. I thought about one of my friends that reads Braille, and I thought that I would put the word shine on the back in Braille. So this is what it looks like in Braille. It's raised because I used the puff paint. So I'm going to give this to one of my friends that reads Braille, and hopefully she can enjoy this rock and be able to read this message on her own. So here are our 4 rocks that I did today. And the last step is to take your Mod Podge or any other clear sealant that you would like to use. And we're going to just use this as if we were going to paint over our rock. So it comes out white, but I promise you it will dry clear. So we'll just take one of our rocks and we're just going to take our Mod Podge and we're going to paint over. And this will help to seal the paint. I think the kind that I have also gives it a little bit of a shine too. And we'll let those dry. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you had fun and you learned something new. And we would love to hear what you plan to do with your kindness rocks. So stop on by our Facebook page at facebook.com/VSA Orange County and drop us a comment or a photo of your rocks. We'd love to see what you created. Thanks again. Take care.